In this episode of Talking About Orks, we're going to be going over Vigilus, Defiant and Specialist formations. So when Specialist detachments were first announced, people were going to be worried that they was going to bring back 7th edition formations and break the game again. Fortunately, I don't think that's going to happen because first and foremost, with a Specialist detachment, it doesn't really automatically give you anything. There is no automatic benefit to taking a Specialist detachment. And basically all it does, it allows you to unlock more Warlord traits, more relics, and additional stratagems. So it costs you a command point for the privilege of taking a Specialist detachment. So yeah, it's Warlord traits, relics, psychic powers, and stratagems. So basically, when you unlock it, when you pay the points for a Specialist detachment, certain units within the detachment gain an additional keyword, and that's pretty much all that happens. And of course, it does for one additional command point. You can take the Specialist detachment's Warlord trait in addition to a regular Warlord trait. So that's pretty cool. So it allows your Specialist detachment to do its Specialist thing without interfering with your main purpose, or your main detachments, your main forces. So I think that's kind of cool. And there's relics. Usually the relics and Warlord traits and stratagems will only affect the keyworded units in your Specialist detachment. And so yeah, special attachments I think are pretty cool. They're very much not overpowered or broken at all, and of course they will vary in power from detachment to detachment, of course. So we are going to start with the 4 Ork detachments here, and I'm going to start with them in order of power from worst to best. So the first one, number 4, is going to be the Stompa Mob. So Stompa Mob is a so the thing about the special detachments is sometimes they say that it can just be any detachment or it has to be a certain kind of detachment. In this case, this one only affects a super heavy detachment, which means you must have at least 3 super heavies in order to take that detachment. So obviously you can't fit 3 Stompas into that, so you have to take a Stompa and like 2 kill tanks or a Gargantuan Squigos or something in that range. I think those are really much the only super heavies we have. I'm not sure. There might be more, but essentially the kill tanks and the Gargantuan Squigos are about 500 points each, and the Stompa's about 1,000, so that kind of works out. You could probably take patrol detachment for a KFF mech and 10 Grots. You might have points left over for that, but that's what you can do for the Stompa Mob. So I mean, if you're playing an APOC game, you know, you could probably run 3 Stompas or 5 Stompas if you really wanted to. 5,000 points of I'll die first turn and kill half your army anyway when they explode. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So Stompa Mob is a special detachment. So use a stratagem when choosing your army. Pick an Ork super heavy detachment from your army to be the Stompa Mob Specialist detachment. Stompa units in that detachment gain the Stompa Mob keyword. In addition, you can pick one model in that Stompa Mob Specialist detachment to gain the character keyword. However, the only Warlord trait it can be given is either the Orks 1 or Morks 1, see right, and the only relic it can take is the Stompa Power Field. So, Warlord trait is either reroll, add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by your Warlord in the fight phase, or add 1 to wound rolls for shooting attacks made by your Warlord. Couldn't add 1 to hit rolls in shooting phase. No, can't do that ever for Orks. Anyway, and the Shiny Gubbins is a 5-up invul save, which is better than a force field because that is in close combat too. It just has a straight up 5-up invul save, so that is far superior. And if I was going to play a larger game, 4,000 or 5,000 points, I would consider taking a Stompa, a kill tank, a Gargantuan Squiggoth, and then 3,000 points of other stuff. Just to give him that, because for the 1 command point you can give him that Warlord trait in addition to to have a Warlord with a Warlord trait. So that's probably worth it to have a Stompa with. It's just a built-in 5-up invul save. Somebody has whack him in close combat, and it has 2 specialist stratagems. So you pick a Stompa Mob unit from your army. So that means only Stompas within the super heavy detachment. Roll a d6 for each enemy model within 3 inches of that unit. On a 6+, that model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound. And Stompa Portal. Use a stratagem during deployment. 4 command points, you can set a Stomp a Mob unit from your army on a teleporter pad. So it's basically the same as a teleporter stratagem, except it's 4 points and it's for Stompa, which again might be fun in a 4,000 or 5,000 point game to deep strike a Stompa turn 2. But anyway, you're never going to see this in any sort of competitive 40k or even a standard 2k 40k game. It's just, I mean, you're going to be taking 3, maybe 14 models at the most. And it just doesn't give you enough. I mean, it'd be nice if the shooting attacks were +1 to hit and +1 to wound. I mean, then, now you got to stomp a hitting on 4s with all that firepower and a built-in 5-up interval save. Now you're getting more into it, but generally, no. You're never going to see this played. Okay, so in third place is the Blitz Brigade. And anyone who likes battle wagons, this might be one to play. And especially since battle wagons got a significant price drop in the codex. So, Blitz Brigade. Use a stratagem when choosing your army. Pick one Ork detachment from your army. Now, this can be any detachment. This is where the specialist detachments. This is what the point I got to emphasize. Even though specialist detachments are trying to get you to play a certain way, you don't have to. You can just play the point for any detachment here. And if it happens to have, and if you're running battle wagons at all, there's no reason not to pay that command point to have access to a couple of these stratagems, which are actually pretty good. So you don't have to worry about building a list specifically for the detachments. You can just add the specialist detachment to any detachment you have, and with battle wagons in it. Either all 3 kinds: battle wagon, gun wagons, bone breakers, and war bosses are what gain the Blitz Brigade keywords. War boss can, of course, the idea is to get the warlord trait and relic. So again, if you're running a couple battle wagons and you want to have access to any of these things, play the command point, and now you have access to these. And it doesn't really matter what the rest of the army is. You don't have to worry about what's actually in the list. So, warlord trait. Backseat driver. While your warlord is embarked with a Blitz Brigade transport, which means one of the 3 battle wagons, add 1 inch to the transport's move characteristic. Not bad. And if it happens to be Evil Sons, now remember, this doesn't restrict holsters at all. So you can be an Evil Sons Blitz Brigade detachment, and now your battle wagon with the warlord in it has +2 movement and +1 to charge. That's pretty good, if you ask me. Let's see. In addition, while your warlord is embarked within it, that transport gains the Irigo ability. So you get to reroll charges, even though most of the time you're going to be using ramming speed anyway. But now you combine ramming speed with Irigo, and I don't think that it's possible to fail that charge, to be honest. Shiny Gubbins is the Blitz Shouta. At the start of your shooting phase, if a bearer is embarked within a Blitz Brigade battle wagon, so only the battle wagon, pick an enemy unit that is visible to that battle wagon until the end of the phase. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Blitz Brigade units within 6 inches of that battle wagon that target the enemy unit you picked. So I'm not sure about that's going to be all that useful, because basically it means it only can affect the bone breakers and anything, and battle wagons and gun wagons that assault. So it's only going to affect the vehicles. It's not going to affect any other infantry units. So I don't know about that artifact, that relic can be very useful. But the stratagems, let's say opening salvo. For 1 command point, when you use a stratagem in shooting phase for the first battle round, only though, pick a Blitz Brigade gun wagon, double the range characteristics of that unit's weapons until the end of phase. So this is basically, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It just doubles the range of the kill cannon that's on it to make it useful in that first game turn, so it's not sitting back. So it can move slightly, get its double shots, double its range. That's pretty good for 1 command point. Well, technically 2, because you got to play for the Blitz Brigade. Crush them. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when a Blitz Brigade Bonebreaker from your army is choosing to fight. Roll 3d6 for the Bonebreaker Ram ability and choose the highest result. So that's almost guaranteed to be 3 mortal wounds there. I think it's D3. I forgot to grab the codex. But anyway, so that's almost ensured to be the maximum number of mortal wounds from the Bonebreaker when it charges. That's not too bad. Again, that's only 1 command point. The one you're probably never going to play is this Hold On Boys. Wall of Text says you can basically a unit can grab on the battle wagon before it moves, jump off after it moves. It doesn't affect the transport capacity, but they can't charge, so it's useless. So that is the. You can see that I could see people who play battle wagons taking this for that opening salvo, and maybe the backseat driver warlord traits. Again, you only need you can for the extra command point. You can take the warlord trait on a war boss in the transport without having to have him be your warlord, so you still have access to another warlord trait. So yeah, that's. But pretty much, if you're not playing battle wagons, obviously this thing isn't going to do anything for you. Number 2 is Dreadwall. Now the Dreadwall itself isn't that great. So what it affects is big mechs, Gorkonauts, Morkonauts, Def Dreads, and Killicans in your detachment gain the Dreadwall keyword. Warlord trait: if a Dreadwall character is your warlord, you give them the following warlord trait: Dread Mech. Model the big mechanic ability only. When your warlord uses big mechanic ability to repair a Dreadwall unit, only Dreadwall units. Other vehicles in your army don't count. Add 1 to the number of wounds regained. So if you're, doesn't sound that great. Custom ammo: 2 command points. Use a stratagem when you're shooting phase with a Dreadwall unit from your army. That unit can shoot twice the shooting phase with all of its ranged weapons, which is really only good for Gorkonauts. Mech connections: 1 command point. Use a stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Pick a Dreadwall unit from your army that is within 1 inch of a mech workshop. Yeah, who cares? It's a mech workshop. So basically, you get a custom job on a 4-up instead of a 6-up. If it was a 2-up, maybe might be worth a command point. Might be worth taking a mech shop. But the mech shop itself is so bad that, that's not really useful. But what really does it for the Dreadwall, of course, is the Shiny Gubbins, the souped-up the souped-up Shaka. So this is a shock attack gun, heavy 60 inches, heavy 2d6, strength 2d6, AP -5, d6 damage. Before firing this weapon, roll once to determine the strength of all its shots. If the result is an 11+, each successful hit inflicts d3 mortal wounds on the target in addition to any normal damage. Whew. Of course, it is heavy. They're still hitting on 5s, but here's a trick you pull with this guy. You make this a Death Skulls detachment, so you can give him the warlord trait that allows him to snipe characters out at 18 inches. So now you've got this thing can do heavy 2d6, -5 d6 damage, potential for extra mortal wounds, sniping out characters. You can put him in. You can put him in a battle wagon, or put him in a battle wagon to run around the board. Yeah, who cares if he's going to be firing heavy weapons, hitting on 6s, anyway. Or if he's out, you can use. Heck, you could even use more DAC on him, so he's always hitting on 5s and 6s, moved or not. And now his warlord trait only goes out to 18 inches, so you have to get within 18 inches of a character. But this is a character sniper with Death Skulls. And, of course, if he's Death Skulls, then they got 6-up invul save to go on top of it. So he adds survivability and adds a lot of sneakiness. And the Super Shaka just actually does really good. From what I haven't tried it yet, but everyone I've talked to who's played it says it is pretty effective. Again, you can use more DACA on it. You can use the sniping character warlord trait. You can use, he's going to have a 6-up invul save. And he's a character, so it's going to be hard to shoot back at him, to take him out. So, yeah. And, of course, the custom ammo for 2 command points, shooting a Gorkonaut twice. Especially, you can go Evil Sons, drop your Gorkonaut through Teleporta, shoot at something, 2 command points, custom ammo, shoot something again with this maximum number of shots, use ramming speed, get into combat. Yeah, just your Gorkonaut would be a 1-shot wrecking crew for a few command points. So those are the 2 reasons to take the Dreadwall, both of which are extremely viable conditions. And again, if you just have a Gorkonaut in your list anyway, spend the command point to take it as a Dreadwall connection. It doesn't matter what else is in your army. It doesn't matter what culture you have. If you're just running a Gorkonaut, pay the 1 command point for the Dreadwall so you have access to the custom ammo stratagem. If you do nothing else, that's not a bad use of command points. So, yeah, if you just, again, there's no reason not to take it if you're running a Gorkonaut. But obviously the clear winner in these specialist detachments is Cult of Speed. Let's see, what can you do with Cult of Speed? So Cult of Speed, use a stratagem when choosing your army. Pick one Orc detachment, again, any detachment, from your army to be a Cult of Speed specialist detachment. Speed freaks in that detachment gain this Cult of Speed keyword. So speed freaks are, of course, Death Killer War Trike, War Bikes, Death Copters, and all the new buggies. So, what can you do with Cult of Speed bikes? Turbo Boostas. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Pick a Cult of Speed unit from your army. If that unit advances this phase, double the unit's move characteristic instead of rolling a dice. Let's talk about that for 2 command points. Let's just say you have a unit of War Bikers. A unit of War Bikers base movement is 14. You give them the Evil Sun's culture. Now their base move is 16. Now you turbo boost as that bike. That is a 32-inch move. And if they're Evil Suns, they can still shoot with full ballistic skill without the penalty for advancing. That is an insane amount of move. I don't think there's anything other than a flyer that can move that fast in a turn. But that's not all. Because if you use a Death Killer War Trike and keep it in range, so you might have to conga line a bike or 2 back to get it, they can still charge. And that's where the rest of this detachment comes in. Warlord trait, quick lads. Friendly Cult of Speed units within 12 inches of your Warlord in the morale phase automatically pass morale tests if they advance the same turn. So you turbo boost as 32-inch move, you assault, again, with the +1 to assault because they're Evil Suns, and here we go. And they're fearless, as long as they stay within 12 inches of the Warlord, which is a Death Killer War Trike. And because you're going to be putting your Warlord, your Death Killer War Trike out there, you can give him Skargrim's Snaz Trike. Add 1 to the bear's toughness, and it gains a 5-up invulnerable save. Again, in combat, it's not a force field, it's not in the shooting phase, it just gains a 5-up invul save. And again, for 1 command point, you can use the field commander to give the Death Killer War Trike the quick lads without it being your Warlord. So now we're talking a 44-inch threat range with a unit of war bikes. There's nothing gonna hide from that. If you want to cut that back a little bit, so it's a 40-inch threat range. Actually, be 40, yeah, 44, because 12 is the maximum you can charge, declare charge against. If you want to scale that back a bit and instead make the bikes goths so they get the exploding 6s in close combat, that might not be a bad idea either. Or heck, even bad moons where they can start rerolling 1s, because the full unit of 12 bikes, of course, puts out 72 shots. Rerolling 1s wouldn't be too bad. So, yeah, so this is the Cult of Speed. This is, it sounds like a lot of fun. Bikes themselves probably aren't hyper competitive. They might still be a little overpriced for what you get. But, oh, the other stratagem, charge through them. When the stratagem before Cult of Speed unit in your army makes a consolidation move, the unit consolidates 2d6 inches instead of 3 inches. That's insane. That means the unit of bikes when they consolidate, if you got some that aren't in base to base, or you can just kind of swing around, they have to stay, at the same distance. They can swing around the other side, try and catch more units in to combat, or if they wipe something out, they can just straight out go 2d6 inches on their consolidate, trap half the opponent's army in close combat. This is insane. This is an insane detachment, pure and simple. The only thing holding it back, of course, is that bikes are limited to 12 models per unit, whereas in the previous editions they were 15, and bikes aren't horribly competitive. I mean, they're not bad. They did have a significant price drop from the index, but I don't think they got enough of a price drop. And you're still going to need some sort of protection. They're still not going to have an invul save. Well, unless you give them Dust Skulls. If you really wanted to, you could make them Dust Skulls, but they have a 6-up invul save. But the chances of having a force-filled mech on bike keep up with a 32-inch move isn't very good. So they're not going to have an invul save from Overwatch or the next turn if you don't assault. You can try and keep them within a pain boy though, try and at least get something. But of course you can use the exhaust cloud stratagem on them to at least give them -1 to hit, which won't hurt either. If you do go out that full 32 inches, you're out of a KFF range. You can't charge, or you fail your charge. You can at least give them -1 to hit. So, and again, it doesn't matter what the rest of the army is, because this is any detachment. So you can run a standard battalion, still take 90 boys, jump one around, so you can jump a unit of boys and assault 44 inches with your war bikes. So now the boys can absorb the Overwatch from everything that you're going to charge with the bikes. And of course, I didn't say that. Of course, the bikes can still shoot after they do that, even if without Evil Suns. You're still putting out 72 shots with Daka Daka Daka. Yeah, so Cult of Speed, again, is the clear winner for specialist detachments in this book for the Orks. And in fact, this week you're going to see a battle report with Cult of Speed bikes and my looted Viper Death Killer Wartrike, because that is what I'm playing this week for League. And we shall see how it does. So, what do you think about these specialist detachments? Do you see the GW going down the road of 7th edition detachments, breaking the game? Or do you think these are just costly enough to balance everything out? Do you want to see more specialist detachments in the future as the game goes forward? Let me know your opinions below. This has been an extremely long video, but there was a lot of information to cover here. So if you stuck with me this long, I just want to say thanks for watching. And again, you will see the Cult of Speed in action in a couple of days. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching this episode of Talking About Orks. Please subscribe and hit the bell button for notifications for new Talking About Orks videos every Wednesday, new battle reports every Friday, and hobby videos whenever I can. Thanks for watching.